What's going on, everybody? It's Chase with Semi Pros Garage. Today I'm coming out here to give you guys some content on the car for the channel and the page. We're going to be doing lower control arm bushing replacements for the rear of the car. I noticed that whenever I was under the rear end, we've made some changes recently. Whenever we switched to the TRZ anti-roll bar, like under axle anti-roll bar, and panhard bar assembly and all that good fun jazz, noticed that the bushings that were on the lower control arms were torn. I'm not 100% sure if that might have been causing some issue with binding on the launch. I don't think that it did, but those bushings definitely need to be replaced. One of them was actually kind of crumbling apart, so that ain't good. So today we're going to go ahead and film the bushing replacement. Extremely simple. You know, I can have this done. If I wasn't filming, it can be done 45 minutes to an hour probably. Have the car jacked up, pull the arms out, do the bushings, put it back together, and have it down back on the ground in, you know, about an hour or something like that. That might be overshooting a little bit, but basically there's a little bit of a lesson learned with this whole deal though. So whenever I originally ordered the bushings for the car, I thought I was ordering like aftermarket bushings for like fixed length or adjustable lower control arms. Yumi, BMR, Spone, like they're all the same stuff. And the website didn't specify whether they were aftermarket, like for aftermarket arms, or OEM. Based off the photo, they looked identical to what I needed, so I ordered them. I was trying to save some time. I thought that I was getting the right stuff because I couldn't find part numbers. I did a bunch of research, and trying to save time ended up costing myself twice as much. So when I got those in, realized they were the wrong size, returned those, and then I gave BMR a call and told them exactly what I needed. Couldn't find a part number or anything like that. So lesson learned in that whole deal is if you're not 100% sure, don't order it. So, you know, cost myself twice the time, had to wait for everything to come in. Now the stuff's in, we'll go ahead and give you guys a video of that. So we'll go ahead and get started. Luckily, this is something that I'm able to do, you know, with my current condition with my back. It just involves me being able to lay down on the creeper, roll under the car. I don't have to do a whole lot of, you know, getting up, getting down, crunched over, you know, leaning over the engine bay or anything like that. So let me squeeze back behind the car. We're going to be dealing with, you know, bearing grease. So that stuff's going to be getting everywhere. So went ahead and got my bushings, and now I actually have a part number. So K1021, for anybody that has BMR or Yumi aftermarket control arms that uses the poly bushings, there's your part number, which was hard for me to find. That's why I ended up having to call them. So K1021, there you go. And then also came with the sleeves that I'll need to go into the center to allow them to float where they need to be at. So get everything set out on the table. All I ended up needing was a 18mm socket, a 19mm socket, I believe, and I use my electric ratchet and an adjustable because it's just easier that way instead of me having to get a whole bunch of wrenches and everything. I believe that OEM, you can do the same. I mean, I believe that it's going to be the same principle, because the mistake I made was actually ordered poly OEM bushings. They're basically an oversized version of those. The process is going to be the same. Removing the lower control arms, the access on a, you know, bolt-on or factory car could be a little bit more difficult, but it's literally 4 bolts to get both control arms out. I'm going to get them out from under the car so I can service them on the table and be able to film everything a lot better. So process will probably be very similar. This is a very easy thing. Aside from me filming, I could have everything done and back in the car and probably have it on the ground in about an hour. So let's get started. Don't know how much you guys can actually see right now, but TRZ Motorsports. So we went with their under axle, panhard bar, or anti-roll bar, panhard bar, and upper bar. I can't remember what this upper bar is called, but it's a panhard. It is like their assembly. The only welding that really needed to be done was we welded the tabs onto the rear end housing here. It comes with 2 tabs for either side. I do have some photos. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but I do have some photos of that being done. Went ahead and did my marks and everything and made adjustments to the end links. So I'll be able to attach the photos of everything getting done for that. And now we're going to go ahead and get to our bushings. So what I'm going to end up doing for you guys is I'll show you now. You just have your bolt, the nut on the back side here. Same thing for this. Drop that whole arm out. Same thing on this side. Bolt here in the rear, bolt in the front. Drop these out. So I'm going to go ahead and clip the video, get these out, get them out on the table, and I'll be able to show you guys the bushing replacement. So now that we have everything out, we're going to go ahead and film this in real time. Haven't opened anything, haven't really done anything. You may need to, on the side of the control arm that is closest to the front of the car, the rocker panel is probably going to be in your way because of the length of the bolt. You might need to manipulate the metal on the rocker panel. So what I mean by that is take a freaking hammer and smash it until you can pull. I mean, if you care about doing something like that, this is a drag car, so I'll do that to make my life easier. Because of the length of the bolt, you can't just, without hitting it with a hammer to get it to get out of the, so you can actually pull that bolt all the way out to drop the control arm. Might be a little bit different on a stock car, but for these aftermarket control arms, the length of that bolt, you cannot pull it just straight out. So I chose to just smash the rocker panel a little bit so I could do that, get these control arms all the way out. So you can see here, this bushing's torn, same thing on the other side, you know, and because of that, this bushing, even, I mean, you can almost see it with just me pushing on it. Whenever I go to clamp down on that, it's binding here on this edge, and you actually can kind of see that a little bit. You guys probably can't, but I can. You can actually kind of see it where there's a little bit of a half moon in this sleeve. This bushing's torn there as well. So this is definitely going to help. So what you're going to need is, now in order to get those out, I just get kind of a wide, you can get a wide flathead, and these bushings come out very easy. So I just kind of work your flathead around. And obviously, you know, when you're doing this, I don't care about these bushings, so I'll tear them, do whatever you got to do to get them out. Once you have them where they're a decent way out, if you can't pull them all the way out by hand, I just get a set of channel locks, grab a hold of that, there you go. That side's out. Get the sleeve out, and you can just literally push the other side out by hand. Maybe. Yep, there you go. I'll find that later. So repeat the process without stabbing yourself in the hand. Kind of feel like I'm getting ready to do that. Get these bushings loosened up. I probably will save the, and there's like no grease in these, so that's also a thing too. It uses, that bushing, this style control arm uses the grease and the actual bushing itself to be able to, whenever you launch the car, the front is a fixed spot, so when it drops, it's pivoting on that, pivoting on both really. It's able to rotate down on the front, and it rotates this way on the rear, so kind of towards you, and this side rotates down. So it relies on the sleeve and the grease and everything. These bushings have no, like basically no grease left in them. So I'm hoping that I'm going to see a pretty big difference in how my suspension is working in the rear. Which it's not that it's working bad. It can always work. I mean, if it can work better, then that's always a good thing. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and tear into this. Get all these bushings out. Get them nice and dirty and nasty with all the old gunk and grime. Man, these are nice. But these are obviously coated. All right. Deal with the trash later. Alright, so now I'm going to be very generous with this grease, because that's what this control arm relies on for the to reduce friction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to coat the sleeve just a little bit, nothing crazy. Install that into the bushing. Do grease on the outside of that bushing. Do a little bit more on the sleeve. Install that into the control arm, which it's a nice fit. And I'm going to take a little bit of that grease and just kind of do just a little bit more. On the outside. Now, I mean, you're going to get the outside of this is what is going to be against your subframe connector, or where it bolts to the the unibody, the frame of the car. So I put just a little bit on that outside edge, just to help just a little. That's going to get road grime and stuff all over it, but it's going to help to reduce friction. And I'll take a little bit of this, and I'm going to gob it in on this edge, so that way when I push this bushing on, it's going to force all of this grease down inside of this control arm. So could be overkill, but because of the abuse that this car sees, I'm not going to take any chances. So I'm going to go ahead and press that in, which this is a super snug fit. Now we're going to take it over to the vise. And you can, like I said, you can probably just put it on the table and push it in, but you're going to get a more even squeeze by doing it this way, without actually tearing up that bushing. So just be careful with how you're doing this. And I'll go ahead and get it on the center. And work this bushing in. You could also, instead of doing this way, you could just use the bolt. And what it's doing, the reason why this fit, the reason why it's hard to press is because of all the grease I just packed in there. Doesn't have anywhere to go, but I would rather have it that way than not have enough grease in there. So that side's done, and obviously these are going to get extremely greasy with everything, but that is rust prevention. So we're going to go ahead and repeat the steps. Grease this. Grease the sleeve. And I will end up clipping the video. I'll do this side, and you're just going to repeat the same steps for the other side. The bolt will do the rest of the work, clamping everything down. I know that it has enough grease in it. It's probably got more than it even needs, but I will, like I said, because of the abuse that the suspension and everything sees on the car, I'd rather have too much than not enough. So I'll go ahead and do this, clean everything up a little bit, and like I said, repeat the steps for the next side, and then you'll be ready to install them back into the car. Just be careful with, you know, when you use your vise, like I said before, and I almost did, you know, you don't want to push one side in at a time. You saw me put it in the vise, and when you go to clamp down on that, if you're on this end of the bushing, or excuse me, the sleeve, and you go to clamp down, it's going to damage the sleeve and potentially also your bushing. You might take a chunk out of this, or you know, you never know. So there we go, guys. So that's one down, one to go. All right, guys, and here is the finished product. So bushing's in. Like I said, one of the things that you should do is I marked the lower control arms, which side was facing forward, and then also what side was driver side and passenger side. And the reason why is, like, one of mine is just, you know, a little bit longer to get the rear end to actually sit square in the car. My driver's side is just a little bit longer, so make sure you know what side. I mean, if you have fixed length control arms, then that's fine. But if you have adjustables, just make sure you remember what side they come off of. But everything's in the car, bolted back in place. So now this will allow, and what I also did too, and what I recommend is, like, just take a little bit of dab of the grease and just put it on the inside of each bushing the outside of the bushing, but the inside of where the bushing and the metal meet, just to give it a little bit of something to be able to rotate on. So little bit in here on both sides, here and here, and then same thing on the front of the control arms. But that's basically it, guys. So everything's done. Like I said, this is something that's extremely simple. You can have this car raised up, bushings replaced, back in the car in under an hour on something like this. All OEM stuff might be a little bit different, but, you know, Yumi, Spone, BMR, all, you know, adjustable, non-adjustable, procedure is going to be the same. So that wraps it up, guys. I'm going to lay here for a second, so let my back settle. The next video that we're going to have is going to be us going out to our next race event. We'll have new tires, going to add a little bit of weight, and that should make all the difference. So see you guys on the next one.